think I'm live. I think I'm back again. Okay, I think I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. Okay, and according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is, a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare. I love his smug little face. 1 person's fare. Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he let nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright, then how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire into the innocent side of the set of scales. Now hold your horses here, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo. Hey! This is all very irritating. Beg your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same. For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Sure. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. You did it. If we can manage to change two more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more. Actually, there was something else. There is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. Then that's where you must strike next, so I need to put 2 more jurors against each other, and yes, yeah. Okay. Exactly, you can do it. I know exactly what I'm doing. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. I'm changing my leaning to innocent. I should like to hear what the Slipshood bookkeeper has to say for himself. Okay. He struck the chap next to him like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. Wait. This trial has to continue so I can get the bottom of this corruption. Okay. We are doing this one. Stabbing that poor man on the floor.
Objection.
And like this. Those 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel. Post haste. Oh, dearie me. I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can't you see that I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha! Want to test me, do you? It was just like this. Struck the fellow next to him without even getting up. Just like the prim banker said. The prime banker? Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do you for, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it. It was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He struck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches, what a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh, but why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good consciences? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. That's cool. I fucking love this. The scales. I don't believe it. Hold it. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. What? If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, dear Dark Jinx. Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it if 2 witnesses have slightly different recollection of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again, and this old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Well, I will tell you. Stabbed once in the abdomen. Nope, back. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. Ah, they're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? It's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you dark jigs? Come on, out with it. I need to sneeze. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What? What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realise that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say the 2 witnesses saw different moments of the same crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. That I shall. Looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime, as proven by the autopsy report. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely 1 time. Which means the witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Alright, I can see defeat. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take its razor-sharp blade. Oh my... What is he doing? I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair of his... Okay. Please tell me he's a barber. He better be. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there's no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to... the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zeeks continued to substantiate their case for the prosecution, if you please. What? That animation was so long. Having savoured the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hollowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. Brr, is it cold in here or is it just me? Van Zeek go brr. As your antiqued tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during an examination. So I honoured a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh, yes, sir, that I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh, yes, sir, I heard it. You, sir, on the end, the coachman, I believe it's Beppo. Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh mio Dio. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defence's summation examination. Various misgivings. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but, well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh yes, he stabbed him, yes he did. I think so, yes. I think so? Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cousinage. We never use Z in a word. What the fuck does that say? Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You've been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace, and your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defence, your cross-examination, if you please. I've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlour games. Absolutely. Various misgivings. I only carried 4 passengers that night. I swear it. Hold it! I'm just gonna fucking press everything. Fuck it. So there were only 4 passengers in your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. I was so cold. It was all I could do to stop myself passing out. I'm getting chilblains just listening to you. Chilblains? I don't know what I said. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night. Then we would have had another suspect. Well, I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? I'm gonna wait a bit, because the internet is apparently bugging out. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, no, okay, it's fine. Ugh. This is annoying. I'm glad I'm recording at the same time. That way I can upload it later. Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. Yeah, it's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead and buried. I'd have been happy if that had never existed in the first place. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. This blood-curdling sight? You mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have had to witness the horror in the eyes of the man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me make a sharp intake of breath, see? That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw the horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. Oh. I tell you, I saw that man. Everything I said before stands. Press. So, you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger, but as yet, 0 evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. I'm not gonna do anything with that one. No, no. Back. I saw Mr. Good stabbing the man. Everything I said before stands. Okay, I'm gonna press this again and see. So you're stabbing. Okay, but what do I do about that? Two of them inside the carriage. Okay, let's just press the last statement, then I'll see.
Hold it!
Maybe something else comes from pressing it. Earlier you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose I might have, you know, yes, put the cart before the horse maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking out of his midriff. That's right, yes. And the fellow holding the handle was the famous man. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that, eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I'd be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? I guess he could have. I'm confused. He was never on the floor if this photograph was taken. If I answer him cleverly, he didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that, eh? Some days are like that. Well, I suppose some days are like that. Sooner or later, you'll see something you wish you hadn't. If you're always peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Thanks for the follow, man. I appreciate it. Do you think I'd forget the sight of these blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man?
Hold it!
The fuck does that mean? Blood-soaked? Ahem. Well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Nope. You saw that from the roof, through the skylight. Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp inside the carriage as well. So I'm quite sure of what I saw. This banker's latest statement. I'm sure there's something not quite right about it. There is something not quite right about it. When you feel something doesn't add up, Mr. Naruhodo, that's when you should have a good look through the court record. I have. I know exactly what's wrong. Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Somehow, we've managed to keep our chances alive here. I can't waste this cross-examination. I have to use it to bring new facts to light. If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger is that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful, as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear of that happen and stop us from uncovering important new information. Yes, you're so right. I need to pay careful attention here. I don't want to miss even a flicker of a reaction among these witnesses. Remember, if you happen to spot one of these witnesses reacting in a strange way, don't hesitate to pursue them as to the reason. Okay, let's do the same thing again. Okay, let's present the gloves, because only one of them.
Objection!
Only one of them has blood on it. Blood-soaked hands. Well, I'd admit that soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. Gilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-coloured stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Ah. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. But no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then? Ah. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. Ooh. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? Well,
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused. No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city bunker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. I don't know what that says. It's claiming to have no reason to lie, but is that really the case? He has a reason to lie. He definitely has a reason to lie. And I know what it is. Mr. Naruhodo, if we have some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has compelling reason to lie in his testimony. I have evidence, because I checked. My lord. Yes, counsel. The defence is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. I'm just gonna check on my food. Okay. Gah! Very well. I hereby call on the defence to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. Well, if you look here, the debtor's, ledger.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Ooh, what? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? Ah, no, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas, not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Ah. Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Give me 2 seconds. Got an important email. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds, sorry. This is too long. I'll read it later. It's fine. Oh, sorry. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Hey! Order! 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 Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord? Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Grr. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? He did not. Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. All right, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth in a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. What the fuck? My internet's bugging out again. It's fine. But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilld's hands, both of them. And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir? Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes, I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? Well, that means the evidence is wrong, which means that's actually good for us. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with the blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. Well, lo and behold. In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologise, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's accounts. In other words, there is no substantial or significant change in the facts of the case. I disagree with that. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that.
Hold it!
No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have gloves, the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. I'm well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless, I know what I saw and I stand by it. The man had blood on both his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfastly refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw, but why? Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guilty from the accused's fingers. No, it does matter, because it clearly wasn't... It wasn't Mr. McGilded. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired. If that matters, it does. Don't try and downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance, as well you know. What? As well you know. Sorry, I thought my food had arrived. Crying out loud, we all know that no one else could possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendants, do you not? Had you hoped to release yourself from the financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found? Had you hoped to release yourself from the financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? Well, that's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the derby, that's all. I was going to win it all back. There's a fixture this weekend, that's a sure thing. A little guinea or 10? I'm a banker, no one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. This witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work? I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both the attacker's hands with the blood on them. Oh, fuck. Let's press this. Hold on.
Hold it!
You definitely saw that too. You definitely saw that too. Blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of McGild's gloves had any signs of blood on them. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw McGild sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing these gloves. That's correct, sir, and I saw the blood on both his bare hands quite clearly. It's true that the dark-coloured stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on McGild's gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands. This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow, I'm sure of it. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I scream. You didn't see anything? Oh yes, sir, that is to say, no sir, I didn't. I'm very sorry about what I said before, sir, very sorry, yes. it was wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab the man. Wouldn't you agree, sir? I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir, I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? Rinosuke, what are you saying? Oh, please, you didn't even see that? It was so cold that night, you see. It was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid, sorry to say, sir. It seemed prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus. Oh, sorry, give me 2 seconds. Hi, I'm back. Okay. Oh, they can never find my house, it's annoying. That's the small chips. I'm just getting out my food, sorry. Ooh, that's my chicken nuggets. And that's my sausage. And this will be my large chips, yep. Oh, I didn't get salt. I need to go back down and get salt. When's the next to be continued? Because, I kind of want to sit and eat for a bit. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go grab some salt. Give me 2 seconds. I'm so sorry about this. Ugh. Actually, I'll take this shit. this room, man. Okay. Okay, let's just get through some more of this before I actually sit down and eat. Okay. There's so much stuff everywhere now. Okay. Okay. Dun, dun, ba, ba. To avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beppo! Ah! Anyway, the fact remains there can't have been anyone else inside the carriage, or we all would have seen. And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus. That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. Oh, interesting. It was locked. That's right, and there's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? They might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You are riding this omnibus and witnessed the events inside the cabin through the skylight on the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here in the flesh. It's fucking hot, man. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area in this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential passenger could have been situated? Well, I was thinking like inside the thing, but it could also just be there. Like, if you're sat there, you're going to be looking down this way and see these people. You're not going to be seeing these people, right?
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ah. That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one which the victim and its attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, It's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it.
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. Japanese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruto? No. I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? I have no idea. I have literally no idea. But as a proud citizen of the Japanese Empire, you will look to the sky and walk on, making sure all signs of tears are gone. Go on. This isn't just a case of going on, Mr. Zato. Alright then, I'll go on. The defense would like to put forward a name. Would we? Who? You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. Okay, let's fucking save. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just trying to think. I don't know who the fuck it could have been. I guess it could have been Beppo. If the carriage would have had to still be moving, right? It was a moving carriage. I'm gonna say Beppo. I don't know who else it could have been. On that night, on the night of the murder, I'm gonna eat more. I'm gonna have to say Beppo. There's no one else it could have been. The person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view.
Take that!
I think I was wrong. Whatever so-called logic you used to arrive at that conclusion, it matters not, because your answer has made one thing abundantly clear. The real blind spot is inside your head, and it would appear to be unusually large. Okay. You could have just said that's not right. Mr. Naruhodo, our task is to defend Mr. Gilded. And we're working on the assumption that he's innocent of this crime. Yes, of course. Why? Oh, it was... I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm such a fucking idiot. It was obviously Mr. McGilded. Of course. Oh, exactly what Oh, of course. So the two people sitting inside the cabin that the witnesses saw through the skylight that night, they were the victim and the real culprit. I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm such a fucking idiot. It does seem as though we'd all been making a false assumption. Witnesses weren't looking at Mr. McGilded at all, meaning they have to have been sitting somewhere else. I'm such a fucking idiot. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. Sorry. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. Okay, come on. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was...
Take that!
That went perfectly with the music. I love that. The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
Whoa! If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hollowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. People talk of those tiny island notions of the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. We are a tiny island, Van Zeeks. Why do people keep saying that about Japan? It's literally, I'm pretty sure Britain is smaller than Japan as well, and it's an island. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. Exactly, Van Zeek, so you're the one who's not using common sense right now. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What's the inconsistency, counsel? Yeah, what is the inconsistency? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Oh. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the story remains. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly, they both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is, if their memory of the events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary! Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere. Order, order, order! What exactly are you postulating? Is that a word? I don't know. The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than a conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused. But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay say the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof, and I could see the rest of them though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular styles of hats were these two gentlemen's... What particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter? The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in the cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. Gilded, would undoubtedly have offered to dispose that fact. To dispose? To depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he travelled. He was asleep. He was fucking asleep, okay? I know people don't like to believe it, but... he was asleep. Which means he's not gonna remember. Give me 2 seconds. just wanted some, I didn't get ketchup. It's fine, I have them. He's right. If there was another person travelling in the enclosed cabin with the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. Gilded would have been unaware of it. Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. Gilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? Prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect who will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out that the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defence, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask McGilded to testify or not? Yeah. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defence would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Ah, yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favourite little park has to say. Oh yes, that would be lovely. Lovely, my dear. Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well, the court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you on the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defence. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no, it is not in the nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all, or keep my mouth shut? I'm attempting an Irish accent. How am I doing? Am I offending people? I hope not. Tell us what, Mr. McGild? McGilded? McGilded. I don't know what his pun name is. The fine fella representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage of the night, with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true. Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... what? Are you actually... okay. No, Magnus McGilded, that convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, sir, I am, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. A very good reason, I assure you. No. Rolling R's is a Welsh and Scottish thing. I don't think it's a Irish thing, is it? I assure you. I can't remember. Which was? Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and not in any way involved, you see. Child? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw it before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? What? Someone's trying to get away. After them. It's no use. I can't see anything through all the smoke. What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. What the fuck is happening? We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amid scenes of chaos as amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. The fuck? Well, I guess we got the to be continued I've been waiting for 3 hours. Okay. We're gonna switch to here and we're gonna listen to some music and I'm gonna eat. Because what the fuck just happened? That was so out of the blue. Mate. That was insane. What was that? Also, I just want to point out, this game so far has had 2 women be the people who've killed people. I would very much like that to not be the case this time, personally, because women don't kill that much. Plus, some